The beast in the cage. The alien arena was packed with loud voices. Lights flashed above, and nobles from many planets sat in golden seats. They had come to see a rare show, a human standing against a monster. In the center of the arena stood one man, Jackson, a human explorer. He wore a dusty jacket, old boots, and calm eyes. While the crowd roared and mocked him, he did not move. He looked around slowly, as if he had seen such madness before. Across from him stood the tall and proud princess, Virella. Her skin was silver blue and her armor sparkled like stars. She looked down at Jackson and laughed. "You are brave, human," she said loudly, her voice echoing. "But you are also stupid." The crowd laughed with her. "I will say only one thing," she continued, stepping closer. "Tremble before me. Because one word from me, and my pet will devour you." She pointed to the large steel cage behind her. It shook with loud growls from inside. Heavy chains wrapped around the doors. Dust rose from the floor as the ground trembled under the creature's weight. Jackson simply tilted his head. "Open it," he said. The crowd gasped. Even Princess Virella blinked in surprise. "You wish to die so quickly?" she asked. Jackson gave a small smile. "No, I just want to meet your pet." With a wave of her hand, she gave the signal. The guards pulled the chains. Metal creaked. Steam hissed. The door opened slowly. Inside was a beast like no other, 8 feet tall, with dark green skin and 4 glowing eyes. Its fangs dripped with poison. Long claws scraped the floor as it stepped out. The alien nobles screamed in fear, but Jackson didn't move. The beast looked around. Then it saw him. It growled, a low, deep sound like thunder. The princess stepped back. "Devour him," she shouted, but something strange happened. The beast stopped growling. Its head tilted to the side. Its nose twitched. It sniffed the air. Then it walked toward Jackson. Slowly. Carefully. The crowd went silent. Jackson stood still. When the beast reached him, it did not attack. It lowered its head. Gently, it brushed its snout against his chest. Princess Virella gasped. "No, that's not possible." Jackson raised his hand and placed it on the beast's head. It purred. The princess shouted again, "Attack him, now!" But the beast growled, not at Jackson, but at her. The crowd stood from their seats in shock. "What is happening?" someone yelled. "Did the beast just choose the human?" another asked. The guards raised their weapons, but the beast let out a loud roar, making them freeze. "Princess," Virella looked pale. Her hand trembled. "How?" she whispered. You control it?" Jackson looked at her and said, "No, I don't control it. I understand it." The beast moved behind him like a loyal hound. The arena was now silent. No more laughter, no more jokes. Fear filled the air, but not from the human. Princess Virella's pride cracked. She had brought the human here to humiliate him, to make her people laugh. But now, she had become the joke. She took a step forward, trying to show strength. "Tell me, human, what did you do to it?" Jackson looked at the beast and then at her. "Sometimes," he said, "a kind heart speaks louder than a command." She clenched her fists. "You think this makes you powerful?" Jackson shook his head. "No, it makes me human." The beast growled again, louder this time, as if agreeing. And then, it looked toward the cage again and let out a long howl. From far inside the arena walls, other howls answered. Jackson turned his head slightly. "You're not the only one with secrets, princess." Her face went pale. The crowd began to panic. Guards looked at each other. Something was wrong. Jackson smiled. "Let's see how loyal your kingdom is, when your monsters start choosing their own masters." The beast's reaction. The guards didn't move. The nobles didn't breathe. The beast, twice, the size of any man, stood silently beside the human as if he was a friend, or a leader. Jackson gently scratched the beast's rough fur behind its horned ears. It let out a deep, calm breath, lowering itself beside him like a resting dog. Princess Varela couldn't believe her eyes. "This is wrong," she muttered. She turned to the beast and shouted, "Obey me! You are mine!" The creature turned its head toward her and growled, not a confused or playful sound, a warning. The guards flinched. One accidentally fired a stun pulse into the air. The blast echoed, and the beast jumped up, placing itself between Jackson and the guards like a living wall. Jackson didn't flinch. The beast, breathing heavily, stepped forward and let out a roar so powerful that the golden arena walls shook. One of the nobles fainted. Princess Varela shouted, "You dare protect him from me?" The creature's eyes glowed bright, blue. It roared again, this time louder, and then something strange happened from the far walls of the arena. Another roar answered, then another, then another. 3 more giant beasts, locked in other cages, began banging against their walls. Boom, boom, boom. The floor trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jackson turned slowly toward the sounds, eyes narrowing. "They're waking up," he whispered. Varela stared at him. "What do you mean?" Jackson didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the beast beside him. "Call them," he said quietly. The beast tilted its head, then howled, a low, echoing cry that carried through the air like thunder. The crowd panicked. Nobles screamed. Some tried to run. The exits were locked. Princess Varela stepped back, her voice shaking. "Stop this! This is my arena!" But no one listened. Not even her own guards. Their hands shook. Their eyes were on the beasts. The cages at the far end of the arena cracked. Metal bent. Sparks flew. From the shadows, one massive claw broke through the bars. Jackson stepped forward and said, "You tried to use living beings as tools, but beasts remember kindness and cruelty." He pulled a small stone from his pocket, a memory crystal. It shimmered with old light. Princess Varela's eyes widened. "Where did you get that?" Jackson tapped the crystal. A hologram appeared, an image from years ago. It showed Jackson kneeling beside a dying young beast, offering it water on a scorched battlefield. Blood on his arms, fire in the background. He had risked everything to save that creature. That creature was this one. The beast beside him let out a soft hum, recognizing the memory. The other cages shattered. 3 more beasts stormed into the arena. Guards aimed their weapons, hands trembling. But the new beasts didn't attack. They walked toward Jackson. One by one they sniffed the air, then bowed. Princess Varela stumbled back. "They're bonding with him. All of them?" Jackson looked her in the eye. "I didn't force them. I earned them." One beast sat, another lay down. The third let out a quiet call, one that sounded like peace. The audience was frozen. No one laughed now. No one cheered. They only watched. The human who tamed monsters with no whip, no chain, no order, only compassion. Varela's voice broke. Who are you?" Jackson turned, his eyes calm. "Someone who listens when others scream." And at that moment, a message came through the arena speaker system. "Emergency. Containment breached. Underground facility compromised. All bonded beasts are responding to an unknown signal." Varela gasped. "They're connected to him." She looked at her guards, but they didn't move. Some even lowered their weapons. They too had seen something they couldn't explain. A human, standing alone, now surrounded by monsters who had never listened to anyone except him. Secrets of the monster. Bond, the arena was now a quiet war zone. Beasts once feared, now rested calmly beside a human. Nobles watched from above, frozen like statues. Even the guards trained for war looked lost. Princess Varela stood still, her pride in pieces. She stepped forward slowly. How did you do this?" Jackson looked at her with no hate, only honesty. "I didn't command them," he said. "I connected with them." Varela's voice cracked. That's impossible. These creatures don't bond. They obey or they kill. No, Jackson replied. That's what you were told, because your empire didn't want anyone to see the truth. He looked toward the largest beast beside him, the alpha, with scars across its face. It lay with calm eyes, breathing steady. Many years ago, Jackson said, I crash-landed on a wild moon, injured, lost, no food, no help. He knelt beside the beast and gently placed his hand on its back. This one found me. I should have been dead. The arena listened. Even the royal guards leaned closer. But it didn't kill me. He continued. It brought me water. It watched over me at night. It led me to safety. Jackson's voice softened. We were both broken and alone. That's how the bond began. Princess Virella's lips trembled. You're lying. Jackson took a deep breath. You can believe your lies, but your beasts know the truth. The alpha beast stood up slowly. Then it walked past Jackson, straight toward Virella. She stepped back quickly. Stop. But the beast didn't attack. It lowered its head and stared. In its eyes, there was sorrow. Virella's breath caught. She saw a memory in those eyes. Her memory. She whispered, no. Jackson stepped closer. You recognize it, don't you? I raised it, she said quietly. When I was young, before it was taken to the training pits. Her voice cracked. They told me it died. Tears formed in her eyes. They lied to me. The beast whined softly, a sound of pain and forgiveness. Virella slowly knelt. The beast sniffed her face and licked her hand. The arena gasped. For the first time, the princess didn't wear her armor of pride. She was just a girl who had lost something precious, and now found it again. How many more were taken? She asked. Jackson turned to the giant doors of the arena. Too many, and they're still suffering. Below us, in the darkness. The beast roared again. The sound echoed down into the ground, into the deep tunnels under the arena. And then, the floor shook. Chains snapped. Below, somewhere far under their feet. Other creatures, locked, forgotten, had heard the call. Princess Virella stood up. There's a lab, a hidden one. I was never allowed to see it. Jackson looked at her. Then let's go together. She blinked. You want me to come? He nodded. You've seen the truth. Now you must choose what to do with it. Virella looked at the crowd of nobles, still watching in silence. Their judgment didn't matter to her anymore. She turned to her guards. Lower the gates. Open the underhall. One guard whispered. But princess, your father, I said open it, she shouted, her voice like thunder now. And for the first time in years, the guards obeyed from respect, not fear. Massive metal gates began to slide open. Darkness waited below, full of secrets, pain, and lost creatures. The princess turned to Jackson. Let's free them. Jackson smiled slightly. Now you're speaking like a real ruler. And as the two of them walked toward the underhall, followed by beasts of all sizes, the galaxy watched in silence. The human, who walked with monsters, and the princess who had finally remembered how to feel. The broken princess. Dark metal doors creaked open. A cold wind blew from the tunnel below the arena. The air smelled of rust, chemicals, and something worse. Fear. Jackson stepped into the underground with steady steps. Princess Virella followed, but her face no longer wore pride. Her hands shook, her breath shallow. The beasts followed behind them, walking silently like guards from another world. Torches flickered along the old stone walls. Strange machines buzzed and clicked. Cages lined both sides of the path, some empty, some not. In one cage, a small creature huddled covered in scars. It looked up at them with tired eyes, one of Virella's beasts barely alive. She pressed her hand to the cage. I knew nothing about this, she whispered. Jackson didn't speak. He only looked at her. Her voice cracked. They told me I was protecting the kingdom. They said these beasts were dangerous. That pain was part of their training. She fell to her knees in front of the cage. The creature reached out weakly and touched her fingers through the bars. A single tear rolled down her cheek. I believed them, she said, barely above a whisper. All my life, I believed them. Jackson crouched beside her. You were raised in a palace of lies. She looked at him. How do you stay so calm? He looked away. Because I've already broken once. I've just learned how to walk through the pieces. They reached the lab at the far end, a giant circular chamber glowing with blue light. Inside were vats of strange fluid, holding mutated versions of the beasts. Some were part machine, others looked half dead. Princess Varela covered her mouth. What is this? This is your empire's truth, Jackson said. This is what they do to loyalty. Screens on the walls played silent recordings, experiments, surgeries, screaming, and then her father appeared, a recording from years ago, the king, standing in the same lab laughing. Emotions are weakness, he said in the video. But fear? That's power. These monsters will serve me, or die trying. Varela stepped back, her heart pounding. No, she whispered. He promised me. He said they were being trained for peacekeeping. Jackson watched her carefully. Sometimes, he said, love blinds us worse than lies ever could. Varela looked around the lab. Everything she believed in was falling apart. She grabbed a metal rod and slammed it into one of the machines. Sparks flew. She hit it again, and again, until it exploded. The beasts behind her howled. Jackson stepped forward, gently placed his hand on her shoulder. We can burn this place to the ground, he said, but that won't be enough. She looked at him, her face full of pain. Then what do I do? He answered softly. Become the ruler they need, not the ruler they trained. She took a deep breath. Her tears dried, and her eyes were different now. She turned to the beasts. We free every single one, she said. We end this today. Jackson nodded. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang. Red lights flashed. A voice echoed, Security breach. All royal units respond immediately. Princess Varela is no longer authorized. She clenched her jaw. My father knows. Jackson looked at her. He'll send everything he has. The beasts growled, ready. Varela stepped forward and raised her voice. Then let him come. I was born in a cage, raised in lies, but today, I fight for the truth. The beasts howled behind her, shaking the lab walls, and the underground trembled, not in fear but in hope. The forbidden lab. The alarm kept ringing. Red lights flashed across the dark tunnels like angry eyes. Echoes of boots, weapons, and shouting filled the space. The royal guards were coming, fast. But inside the lab, Princess Varela had changed. She stood tall beside Jackson, armor cracked, eyes fierce. The beasts behind her paced like soldiers ready for war. She turned to Jackson. They will try to kill me. Jackson looked calm. Then don't let them catch you. She smiled slightly, just for a second. He handed her a small glowing cube. This will unlock every cage in the lower sectors. Free them all. I'll hold the entrance. Her eyes widened. Alone? Jackson shrugged. I won't be alone. The alpha beast growled beside him and stepped forward. Varela nodded. Don't die, human. Not today, he said. She ran into the tunnels with 3 beasts, holding the cube tightly. Jackson turned to the main hallway where the guards would arrive. He placed his hand on the alpha's neck. You ready, big guy? The beast roared in answer. A second later, armored guards stormed in, over 20 of them, laser rifles raised, shouting orders. No time for talk. Jackson stepped out, fearless. The guards saw him and froze. It's him, one shouted. The beast tamer. Take him alive, yelled the captain. But before they could fire, the alpha lunged forward like lightning. Chaos exploded. Guards were thrown aside, weapons shattered. Jackson moved between them like a ghost, dodging and striking with perfect timing. He didn't kill, but the beasts made sure the soldiers didn't get back up. Meanwhile, Princess Varela sprinted through the underhall. The cube in her hand beeped with each door she passed. Cages began to slide open one by one. First came the weak, then the young, then the forgotten. Eyes glowed in the darkness. Some beasts limped out. Others flew. Some crawled along the walls like shadows, but none attacked her. They sensed her heart had changed. She reached the central hub. A giant sealed vault stood before her. The cube glowed bright blue. One last door. She pressed it to the console. Click. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside was something no one expected. A beast larger than all others, scarred, chained, and heavily sedated. Tubes in its back, wires in its head. It barely breathed. Varela gasped. "What did they do to you?" The creature opened one eye, golden and ancient. Her lip trembled. "I know you." She stepped closer. "This is my mother's guardian," she whispered. "It vanished after her death. I thought it was dead." She touched its head gently. The golden eye blinked. Then, the chains broke. The entire vault shook. The beast stood up, its wings unfolded 20 feet wide. It looked down at her, then growled low, but not with anger. With recognition. She nodded. "We have work to do." Back in the main hallway, Jackson was bleeding. His arm had been cut, his side bruised. But he was still standing. The Alpha had taken down almost every guard. One last squad remained. The leader pointed a heavy plasma cannon at Jackson. "This is your end." Suddenly, a sound shook the walls. Boom, boom, boom. The cannon dropped from the leader's hands. Everyone turned. Out of the tunnel came Varela, riding the winged guardian. Dozens of freed beasts followed behind her like an army of shadows. She pointed at the guards. "You fight for a king who lies." She raised her fist. "They fight for truth," the beasts roared. The guards ran. No fight, no orders, just fear. Jackson smiled through the pain. "Nice entrance." She dismounted beside him. He looked at the giant beast and whispered, "That thing yours now?" Varela nodded. "No. She's my mother's old friend, and maybe mine again." Jackson looked around. "Then let's end this." She replied, "Yes." We take the fight to the palace. And with that, the lab behind them burned. And an army of beasts, led by a human and a broken princess, marched toward the surface, not for revenge but for freedom. The new bond. The palace gates had fallen. Smoke rose into the alien sky as the capital burned in the distance. The royal banners were torn, the empire's symbol fading into ash. But in the center of the great courtyard, the battle was already over. Jackson stood beside the mighty beasts, dirt and blood on his face. His shirt was torn. One arm hung weakly, wounded from the last strike. Princess Varela stood across from her father. The king, once proud, now surrounded by silence. He had no more soldiers. No more machines, only fear in his eyes. "You ruined everything," the king hissed. "You betrayed your blood." Varela's voice was calm. "I betrayed your lies, not my people." He raised a small device, one last command code. "If I go down, I'll take your monsters with me." Before he could press it, a massive claw slammed into the ground beside him. The winged guardian, her mother's beast, growled, eyes glowing. The king dropped the device, trembling. Jackson walked forward slowly. "They're not monsters," he said softly. "They're survivors like her, like me." The king fell to his knees. For the first time in his life, he was silent. Princess Varela looked to the crowd, her people watching from balconies and broken towers, nobles, soldiers, children. She raised her voice. "I was raised to rule through fear, but fear creates cages." She turned to the beasts. "They showed me that love creates bonds." The alpha beast stepped forward and bowed its head. And slowly, So did the others. Hundreds of alien beasts, all lowering their heads in loyalty. Not to power, to kindness. The people began to kneel, one by one, to a new leader, to a different future. Later, in the quiet of the palace garden, Varela sat beside Jackson. Her armor was gone. Her face was clean. She looked more like herself, maybe for the first time. The alpha beast rested nearby, curled like a giant puppy in the grass. "You know," she said, "you never told me your full name." Jackson smiled. "Just Jackson. That's all I need." She looked at him with soft eyes. "You saved my people, my beasts, even me." He looked toward the stars. "No. They saved themselves. I just reminded them they could." A breeze blew gently through the leaves. For a moment, there was peace. Then, the winged guardian let out a deep hum like a lullaby. Jackson glanced over. "She's singing?" Varela nodded. "They do that when they're safe, when they feel home." He leaned back on the bench. "Must be a nice feeling." Varela smiled. "You can stay, you know, as advisor, or general, or something more." Jackson looked at her. "I don't stay long anywhere." He paused. "But maybe just a little while." They sat quietly. The princess and the man who tamed monsters with no chains, no power, only heart. The stars above glowed brighter that night, and far across the galaxy, people whispered a new legend. The human who walked with beasts, and the princess who walked beside him.